jumped up and challenged every man in the room. And just about the time he got the words out, an old boy jumped up and closed his mouth and used his head for a mop and his butt for a broom. It was an attitude adjustment. I guess it was his first time. An attitude adjustment. Now he understands just fine. He got bent out of shape, then he opened his mouth and just one appointment straightened him right out. It was an attitude adjustment. Oh, it'll work every time.
Hello again, it's Matthew Lampros. As you know, I have a company named Celemental. I always like to give you my phone number and information up front, and then I'll give it to you in the end as well. As you know, I'm very, very open to anybody making a phone call or sending an email, setting some time to meet with me and answer any questions. I'm very, very happy to do that. ABM is a wonderful client of mine. I'm very delighted to have your business, and so I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that I can help out, because that's really what I'm supposed to be doing here. Today, as you might have guessed from the rather different, hopefully kind of fun opening, our discussion will be about attitude. Now, let me start by saying I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I have lived in many other cities before I moved here, but I enjoy living in Salt Lake City. One of the reasons I like Salt Lake City is it's a small market, and for those of you that have a franchise or a company store in a small market, you'll maybe agree with me that it's a little bit easier to do business in a small market sometimes than it is in a bigger market. One of the benefits is that you can get things done a lot faster. I was able to, for a number of years, have a radio show, and that was just an AM radio show, but it didn't, I didn't have to be overly qualified to get that show. I'm going to use segments from the show, from some of the guests that I had on during this Sales Summit today. You'll see that I'm not overly qualified to be a radio host, but I was able to have these programs. And because the thing that we want to learn about today is attitude, I thought that I would reach back into the past and pull in some of the information that was shared on some of those programs, because some of the guests I had on, two in particular, have a lot to say about attitude, and so we're going to focus on that today, okay? The two gentlemen that I really want to introduce you to today, I'm sure you already know them. Let me reintroduce them to you, or let me point out that they're good resources for this topic, are both Jeffries. The first one is Jeffrey Gitomer. You're probably very familiar with his Little Red Book of Selling. He has 6 or 7 other books that are Little Red Book of this, Little Green Book of that. And I had him on the program early on. The audio quality is not very good, but I asked him about attitude, and he'll discuss that with us next. And then the next one is Jeffrey J. Fox. Jeffrey J. Fox, I think, is one of the best, is one of my favorite authors, fiction and or nonfiction. He writes these books, How to Become a CEO, How to Be a Rainmaker, The Secrets of Great Rainmakers. In fact, it's my understanding that he actually came up with the word rainmaker, because he's the first one that I've ever seen use it, and he has 2 books titled that. In the past, on some sales summits a number of years back, I've talked about some of his other books, most notably The Dollarization Principle. But he is one of my favorite authors, and I have some great interview time with him, so we'll cover that as well. But let's get started with Jeffrey Gitomer. So I bring him on the program, and he's talking about his books, and here's what he has to say. Again, the audio is not great, but here's what he has to say about which book you ought to think about reading and why.
Small business owner, entrepreneur, salesperson, sales leader, which book should each one of those folks start with?
I would, this is my personal recommendation. I have a book called The Little Gold Book of Yes Attitude. I think that every person who reads me needs to start out with the Gold Book, because if I teach you how to serve somebody and you have a lousy attitude, it won't matter. If I teach you how to sell somebody and you have a lousy attitude, it won't matter. Regardless of what you're instructed to do, your attitude will determine the outcome. Not the altitude, the outcome. And the challenge for each person is to decide how they want to think before they decide to take some kind of action. If you have a lousy attitude, you're pretty much going to take lousy actions.
Okay, so his opinion is that even though Little Red Book of Selling is, and his sales Bible are just giant successes that he wants everybody to read, his opinion is that you ought to read his little gold book of Yes Attitude before you read anything else. And the reason is that if you don't have the right attitude, nothing else he's going to teach you matters. I think that's very powerful. So let's go look at his book. Now, this whole book is about attitude, but it's different than the kind of attitude that Jeffrey J. Fox talks about. So let me clarify here. Here are a couple pages from his book, and I would encourage you to go pick it up if some of these questions you answer no to. This is a book really about attitude in general. Do you have a negative or a positive attitude, and how to get a positive attitude? So if you struggle, you're in a rut, or life just isn't going the way you want, or things aren't so necessarily cheery at the office, this might be the kind of book that would be perfect for you to read and study as you think about how to improve your attitude so that you can improve your outcomes. So he asks a lot of questions about, do you read the news? Do you talk about your problems at work? Do you take your work problems home? Do you care about the weather? He talks a lot about how you feel about yourself. I'm an enthusiastic person. I am happy on the inside. I look for the good in things. I encourage myself. And he wants you to answer yes or no on this quiz. This quiz is early on in the book. And then based on your answer, he recommends parts of the book that you should read. I do think this is a really good book. He talks about having a positive attitude. I think the most important points he makes are the points that he made in that interview. If I teach you to sell to someone, if I teach you to serve someone, and you have a lousy attitude, it won't matter. Because if you have a lousy attitude, you're pretty much going to take lousy actions. Really good thoughts, really good book to read if you're stuck kind of with a lousy attitude and you're just unhappy and a little bit grumpy. I'm going to move to Jeffrey J. Fox, and we're going to start with an interview that he and I did when his book, How to Be a Fierce Competitor, came out. Now, what Jeffrey J. Fox talks about is attitude as well, but the kind of attitude he talks about is more, well, I guess he would call it the rainmaker attitude. It's more like the person who's driven. And we have a short conversation about ambition, which I'll let you listen to here, and then we'll come back to this idea about attitude. So, Jeffrey, thank you again for being on the show.
My pleasure.
You mentioned something that caught my ear at the first segment. You said your books are written for ambitious people. Mm-hmm. When you say you're writing for ambitious people, you're writing for them in what way?
Well, ambitious people want to succeed in whatever walk of life they are in. Ambition is a great thing. It's not a negative. Ambitious people are the ones who take more batting practice than their other teammates, who study harder in school, who are willing to take a risk, who listen to their elders, who read and learn and so forth. Ambitious people are, a lot of them really have very modest egos. They just want to do better. So what you see, and what we're going to keep hearing from him in this interview, is that he's pushing us to be an ambitious person, to not let our circumstances get us down. In fact, let our circumstances sort of drive us. The worse the economy gets, the more regulation we feel, or the more the competitors start to move in, or the tougher day or week we have, the more ambitious we should become, the more effort we should put into what we're trying to accomplish. His point that he'll make, and he continues to make, is most people in these circumstances shut down and slow down, and he doesn't want you to do that. So the kind of attitude that he's talking about, I think, goes beyond what Gitomer's talking about in his yes attitude. He's not just saying have a good attitude, he's saying have a winning attitude. I love his books because they're very, the chapters are very short. He wrote in sort of what you would call the blog style before anyone else ever wrote blogs. His chapters are short. They get you motivated and excited. And I think that there's a real clear difference between not just having a good attitude, but having a rainmaker attitude, an ambitious attitude. And so let's listen to a little bit more about what he has to say about having that right attitude, no matter what's going on in the world. Or what was your emotion when you said, I'm going to write this book? In the middle of when everyone was going, and the word unprecedented was being used, 1,000 times a month in the Wall Street Journal, you're sitting there thinking, I need people to hear this. What's that emotion like? Well, I look at some of our clients, and I look at other businesses, and I see the managers hiding under their desk and going down into the hidey holes and in the cellars and hunkering down and going dark to the market and then complaining that business is getting worse. Unless you have 100% market share for all your products in all your segments, there's business out there. Now is the time not to be scared by the newspapers and by the pundits and everybody else. The fact of the matter is, and the data on this are indisputable, since the first panic of something like 1823 to the Civil War, which was another economic downturn, to 1906 when J. Pierpont Morgan saved us, to the Great Depression and the 12 recessions since, great organizations matters not, those companies that outsell, outmarket, outtrain, out-innovate, out-communicate their competitors emerge from the downturn in a stronger market share position and a profit position. Those are facts. Now, it takes courage to do it. You've got to be innovative. You have to have a good idea. But what you can't do is sit behind your desk and wait for the business to come in. Now, I saw a study the other day which shows that in bad times, ordinary salespeople at big organizations make 30% fewer sales calls. But the entrepreneur, the killer sales guys, the rainmakers, they're making 30% more sales calls in tough times, which is what you should do. I mean, imagine if your big competitor cuts, which when I have a case like this, as you know, Matt, it's in the book, where a guy, the big competitor cuts his salesperson's T&L, travel and leisure budgets, and cuts this, cuts that, cuts commissions, cuts this, and the small guy does the opposite. Guess who's dominating the market? The small guy.
And it felt like a great risk.
It felt like a great risk. Let your listeners know, hearing N-O, I don't want it, I can't afford it, don't come back, 99 times is okay because the one yes trumps the 99 no's. And you're not going to hear a yes unless you're out there with the customers, doing your best, pitching your value, showing how you can help them, reduce their costs, increase their revenues, make them feel better, avoid a catastrophic event in the future, and showing them that you're going to get business.
Great stuff, and you can see why I think very highly of him. So this is information that he shared with us from his book, Fierce, or How to Be a Fierce Competitor. And it's a reminder to not give up and to be a salesperson with the attitude of a rainmaker attitude, not just a positive attitude, but somebody who has the attitude of a rainmaker. So we're going to move to two of his other books about being a rainmaker. And these, he's given me permission to use some clips from his audiobook very generously, which I appreciate. I think they will help you in his voice hear some of the key thoughts. Again, what he's trying to teach us here is not how to have a positive attitude, but how to have the attitude of the top rainmakers, the people that think like a rainmaker. As Jeffrey Gitomer says, your attitude drives your actions. And if you take that to the next degree that Mr. Fox is trying to teach us, you can use your attitude to think in a way that is different than other people, and it will cause you to do things during hard times, during ruts, during the difficult time of being a salesperson that your competitors won't do, and you will win. So let's hear what he has to say here.
Chapter 2. Rainmakers have no competitors. Other salespeople in other companies want your customer. Other salespeople in other companies sell products and services like yours. Some of those products may have a lower price than yours. Some of those products may have different features, or different technology, or colors, or sizes, or delivery systems than yours. The other guys want your business, but they are not your competitors. Your only competition is customer ignorance. If you believe in your dollarized selling proposition, in the dollarized value your customer will get from your product benefits, and if you believe that if you were the customer, you would buy from yourself, then you have no competitors. Chapter 7. Selling is a contact sport. Contact sports are hockey, football, soccer, lacrosse, boxing, wrestling, rugby, fencing, and more. In these sports, players come into physical contact with each other. Ergo, contact sport. Contact sports are often rough. Other contact sports are baseball, golf, tennis, badminton, where keeping an eye on the ball is crucial for success. Good players are fearless, tough, physically fit. Good players practice constantly. Good players play to win and never quit. Selling is a contact sport. Successful sellers are constantly contacting new prospects via mail, phone, visits. Rainmakers are in constant contact with existing customers. Rainmakers know that face-to-face contact with decision makers is when sales are made. Like other contact sports, selling is rough and tough. Customers can be brutal. Every other salesperson is fighting to get your customers and win the race to get new customers. Markets can decline, capacity can increase, prices can soften, technologies can change. Some salespeople think that gladiators, who play the ultimate contact sport, have an easier job.
Okay, now I'm going to sneak something in here. I should say that, I've been doing business with ABM and the different franchises and company stores for almost 4 years now. And one of the things that I see a lot is there's this real strong push for getting referrals, and it's something that's largely ignored. So he has, I'm not going to comment on that too much further other than to say he has something really good to say here. And he talks about, again, a different way of looking at things, a different attitude that forces us to think about some of the things that help us win in a new way. And so here's what he has to say about referrals.
Chapter 14, Why Customers Want to Give Referrals. All the books on selling advise salespeople to ask their customers for referrals. A referral is the name of someone who could be a new customer. This advice is correct. Rainmakers always ask for referrals, but they ask using aided prompts. Rainmakers help their customers to think of possible referrals with aided prompts. Are there members of your country club, others in your family, people with whom you work, other softball players that might want to get the same deal you received? The reason why Rainmakers always ask for referrals and why ordinary salespeople rarely ask, despite the avalanche of advice, is that Rainmakers understand that many customers want to be asked. Rainmakers understand the psychology that stimulates referrers to refer. Many buyers want reinforcement that they made the correct purchase decision. They want validation that they bought the right product, that they paid a good price, got the best deal, are in style, will get their money's worth, won't be disappointed. Giving the salesperson a referral is giving approval to the salesperson for selling. Giving a referral makes the referrer an authority on the salesperson's product.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm not going to hound you about that anymore. I know that you hear a lot about referrals, but he agrees. You really should be asking for referrals. Rainmakers ask for referrals. Here's his last little tiny bit on why you ought to be thinking about that.
Rainmakers know a secret. Every sale starts with a lead, an introduction, a referral. Rainmakers know another secret. 75% or more of referrals from good customers become new customers. And those new customers lead to more new customers. Referrals make salespeople and customers happy. Be happy.
Okay, well, thanks to everybody for the opportunity to do this Sales Summit on attitude. Remember that attitude is a decision. It is a decision to do things not only in a positive way that helps you to make sure that you're taking care of business, but there is such thing as a rainmaker attitude, an attitude that you have to have in your profession that maybe somebody in another part of the company doesn't have to have in order to be really successful. It's not just a positive attitude, it's the way of thinking that goes beyond that to say, I can win, I will win. It's a gung-ho attitude. It's something that looks at the problems that you face as part of your profession in a completely different light. It's not that you have competitors. You don't have competitors. If I were you, I would buy from me. And that's a very different kind of attitude that I think is a decision, is a choice that can help you be really successful. My number's included here on this one pager. I'll make sure that William Crow and the others that are involved in training have access to this one page so you can keep this with you in your office to remind you of the key points. And please do reach out to me anytime you want to, and I'm happy to help out. Little Gold Book of Yes Attitude, a great book. If you're struggling with just kind of having a good attitude, it really does have good thoughts in there to kind of get you out of a funk. And then How to Be a Fierce Competitor, How to Be a Rainmaker, Secrets of Great Rainmakers, really fantastic books by Jeffrey J. Fox on how to go beyond that and really have a rainmaker attitude. I know that you know, because I've said this to many of you before in the years that I've worked with you, the caliber of rep, of maintenance rep and project rep at ABM is extremely high. I know that because I've worked with you. I know that because I've talked to building owners. I've asked what the reputation of your company is. You guys have natural instincts, natural ability. You have great training. And I know that you can be really, really successful. These are tools that will help you get there. So I'm really hopeful that you will. I wish you the best of luck. I offer you my help in any way that I can provide it. I will gladly provide it. Go out there. Good luck. Please let me know if I can help. Thanks again for this opportunity. Have a great day.
Both kneecaps were bit clean through. It was an attitude adjustment. It made my whole outlook brand new. Just an attitude adjustment. It makes your whole outlook brand new. Yes, I understand just fine. Perfectly.